DreamWorks' Dogman is without a doubt one of the best adaptations of a children's book series.
Dogman!
But did you know that even this movie has some differences from the books?
No time to waste. Cut it out.
You'll notice that the film is so faithful that many scenes from the books are present in it, although with some small differences that slightly change the context of the story. This is especially true since the Dogman books have very simple illustrations, and the movie chooses to add more details to its scenes. Want an example? Just think about when Petey created Little Petey. In the original, he simply talks to the kitten. But in the adaptation, the so-called most evil cat in the world uses duct tape to tie his clone to a chair. A bit extreme on Petey's part, huh? But the world of Dogman is pretty over the top anyway, and this addition just made the situation even funnier. The scene where Petey uses an internet bot cloning machine to clone himself, accidentally creating a kitten, exists in both versions and is hilarious in both the books and the movie. However, the film changed the appearance of the cloning machine, and honestly, the result is much better. While the original machine was basically a small box, the one in the movie is much bigger, more high-tech, and packed with details. And let's be honest, it makes way more sense for a cloning machine to be a huge and complex piece of technology, especially considering that the device was made to store a clone for about 18 years until it reached adulthood. How could such a tiny machine accomplish that? Not to mention that the movie version looks way cooler. It's pretty clear that the film made some changes while adapting the saga, right? So, get ready to dive in. It's time for another Cinewave. Speaking of the cloning machine, the super cute scene where Lil Petey looks at his creator right after being born and calls him daddy also has some small differences. In the book, he quickly steps out of the cloning machine before calling him daddy. Meanwhile, in the DreamWorks adaptation, he stays inside the machine when he looks at Petey and calls him that. What we can be sure of is that in both versions, this was the beginning of one of the cutest relationships in the Dogman universe. The Dogman movie mainly adapts the first 3 volumes of the book series, but of course, some story adjustments were necessary to fit everything into a 90-minute film. One of these adaptations involves the movie's final villain, the fish Flippy. In the original version, he is introduced in the second volume as a fish that Dogman gave to the chief as a gift. After an accident, he gains psychic powers and becomes a villain. Later, he dies and is brought back to life as a cyborg in the third book. In the film, the part where Flippy gains psychic powers and dies is cut, and he is already shown as a frozen corpse that the chief gave to the Super Science Center for study. However, it seems like this part of Flippy's story did happen in this universe, it just wasn't shown in the movie. Even though the movie mainly adapts the first 3 volumes of the original material, it also pulls elements from later books and blends them into the story. The best example of this definitely shocked everyone: the appearance of Petey's father, Crud, in the movie. In the books, this character only appears in For Whom the Ball Rolls, the 7th book in the series, after Petey has already left his supervillain career behind and is living with Lil Petey. But in the film, they meet again, even before Cyborg Flippy is defeated, something that happens in the 3rd book. If you also love seeing Petey's father in the movie, comment below with #CRUD. One difference that fans of the books must have noticed is that Petey's father, Crud, had some design changes in DreamWorks production. In the books, he looks a lot like Petey himself, only distinguished by his glasses and small beard. In the movie, this remains the same, but his beard is given a grayish color to make the age difference between them more obvious. Additionally, his glasses originally have a black frame, but the movie decided to make them green instead. The changes aren't huge, but they make Crud's design look much better. Another interesting difference is in the most important scene of the saga, the moment when Officer Knight and the dog Greg find the bomb that's about to explode in their faces, forcing them to undergo the surgery that turns them into Dogman. In the movie, this happens while the police duo is chasing Petey. During the chase, they end up at a construction site where the bomb has been planted. The funny part is that the location is clearly an abandoned building, so no one would actually get hurt if the officers just left and let the bomb explode. In the books, this scene is even simpler. Petey shouts from a distance that he found a bomb, and since they don't recognize the villain's voice, they walk right into the trap. In this version, the bomb is on the ground instead of being planted in a structure. Now let's talk about a change that is actually pretty important. If you've read the books or watched our Dogman trivia videos, then you know that the saga is a spin-off of Captain Underpants, which was created by the same author, Dave Pilkey. In the books, both Captain Underpants and Dogman are fictional stories created by 2 young comic book artists, George and Harold. Dogman even begins with the 2 of them drawing the first comic of the character. The movie kind of skips this part. However, it still hints that this universe is actually an invention of the 2 kids, as they appear in a few scenes as Easter eggs. It's as if they were gods watching over this world from afar without interfering in anything. Another difference between the two versions once again shows how much effort the film's production team put into improving everything they adapted from the original material. This time, we're talking about the Super Science Center. In the books, the location is a simple but cute blue building. The movie transforms it into something much more unique and full of personality. The new design features a giant chemical flask on top of the building, making it crystal clear that this is a high-tech research center. Speaking of buildings, another very important one in this saga is Petey's secret base. Secret in quotes, of course, because in both versions, the building has a giant sign that literally says Petey's Secret Lab. It's a joke, as no one in the city seems to figure out where the most evil cat in the world is hiding, even though it's ridiculously obvious. But the movie takes this joke even further. In the book, the location is already a red building with that giant sign, making it painfully clear where Petey creates his inventions. The movie version is the same, but they added extra signs with phrases like, "It's here, look," and "but shh." The cops in OK City are pretty incompetent, huh? If they watched our videos, they'd definitely know where Petey's hideout is by now. Speaking of which, how about subscribing to our channel? We're always bringing you high-quality content about your favorite animated movies, so you won't regret it. To wrap up the topic of Dogman's buildings, let's talk about the differences between the Spray of Life factory in both versions of the story. If you've seen the movie, you know that the factory ends up coming to life because of Flippy and turns into a monstrous creature. This also happens in the book, but its appearance is quite different in each version. In the adaptation, the building is much larger and has well-defined green arms with yellow gloves. In the book, however, it's much smaller, moves in a clumsier way, and has brown arms. Plus, its hands don't have gloves and are much tinier. Honestly, I think DreamWorks' version would completely overpower the original. Even some scenes from the movie that aren't super important to the story were adapted straight from the books. One example is in that montage of adventures Dogman had after being created, where the canine officer takes down a robber. However, in the movie, our hero has to bite the thief's shirt to stop him from escaping. In the book, all he had to do was growl, and the criminal gets so scared that he immediately gives up on running away with the money. Does that mean the Dogman from the books is way more intimidating than DreamWorks' version? Well, maybe the Dogman from the books is scarier than his movie counterpart, but the same can't be said for the mayor, because in the movies, she's even more unhinged than in the books. Just compare the scene where she yells at the chief because of Petey. She screams at him in both versions, but in the movie, she's way more aggressive, and even climbs onto his desk. Another cool detail is that, in the book, Dogman is right next to the chief in this scene. In the movie though, he's still watching but does so while hiding, so the mayor doesn't even notice him. Petey loves making stylish vehicles inspired by different animals. One of them is the Robo-Bee 2000, which plays a big role in one of the coolest chase scenes in the movie. But even this vehicle didn't escape some design changes for the adaptation. In the original, it's not as big and has fewer details, plus its wings and antennae are silver. In the movie though, the robot is much larger and more imposing. The vehicle's wings now look more like real bee wings, and its antennae were changed to yellow. Let's not forget about its eyes, originally orange in the books, but purple in the adaptation. Remember that scene where Lil Petey shows his dad the comic he made about the two of them? Yeah, that's one of those moments you just can't forget, which is why it exists in both the original and the DreamWorks version. It wouldn't have made sense to cut it. However, once again, the context of the scene is quite different. In the original, Lil Petey shows off what he made while he and his dad are at their base. At that moment, Petey is just lounging in a chair. In the movie though, Lil Petey presents his comic in the middle of a mission while the two of them are inside the Robo-Bee 2000. We've left 2 more videos on your screen. Just pick the one that interests you the most and keep the fun going. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.